Oh, hi. Don Bendel here. I was just reading one of my favorite books, or rereading it, Tracks of Hope, a true story, which was nominated for the Pulitzer Prize, and it's been re-released by SpeakingVolumes.com. I hope you enjoy it. Anyhow, I want to talk about something a little more serious tonight. What's been going on in our country lately is sad, but it's also hopeful. I'm very proud of the fact that two of my sons and I all risked our lives in the cause of freedom, like many veterans have done, and many active duty military have done, so that we Americans can be Democrats, or we can be Republicans, or we can be Libertarians. We can be apolitical. We can be atheists. We can be Christians. We can be Jews. We can be Muslims. We can be whatever we want to be in this country, and we need to not lose sight of that. And we do not need to tear down what many people, including veterans, have worked hard for. When they've worked hard for an American dream, and then somebody's angry about an injustice, and they go tear that person's dream down that they put their life savings into. And we hate each other and beat each other and call each other names. That's not America. It made me think of a story. You know, I collect eagles. I love eagles. And there's a town out west. Doesn't matter what state it was in. There was a town out here in the west. And it was a small mountain town with towering cliffs looming over the town. And most of the men in the town made money by guiding mountain climbers. A lot of people would come out with their mountain climbing gear, their ropes and pitons and everything, and they would want to climb these cliffs and you know, go to the top of some of these mountains that were tough to climb. You don't just walk up some trail, but you scale that cliff. So anyhow, there was a woman that lived in the town. She was like third generation, didn't have much money. She was a widow. Her husband had been a guide. He was killed in a climbing accident years before. She didn't even have a washing machine. She had a clothesline. And she was hanging her clothes out. And she was wearing a pair of Crocs. And she was wearing a pair of blue jean cutoff shorts and a tank top. And she had her little infant baby in a infant carrier, sitting on the ground by her while she hung clothes on the clothesline in the backyard. It was a beautiful, bright summer day, and there was a magnificent eagle soaring overhead. And, you know, everybody in the area just loved seeing the eagles that would fly around and the hawks and so on. And anyhow, while she had her back turned, getting clothespins out of the basket, all of a sudden this eagle swooped down and grabbed her little baby boy. And she had wrapped him up in a lot of blankets, and he had thick pajamas on. So fortunately, the eagle's talons didn't penetrate through and injure the child. But he let out a scream, and she turned around just in time to see this eagle swooping down, grabbing the child, and carrying the child aloft. And the eagle flew higher and higher as she screamed bloody murder. There were neighbors around. There were people around. She lived right on the edge of this small town. And they heard, and a few people saw what happened, and people were screaming. And it wasn't long before a number of men were gathered together, and a lot of these men were mountain guides, mountain climbing guides specifically. And they grabbed their ropes, they grabbed their carboners, they grabbed their Swiss seats, everything. And they started climbing up that mountain. That eagle carried the baby up to its eyrie, which is an eagle's nest, which was way up atop the highest cliff, right near the top, and it was on the side of the cliff in a little rock outcropping, and placed the baby, still crying, of course out of earshot now, but the baby's still crying, in its nest. The eagle hadn't made its kill yet. It was waiting for its mate to get there, apparently. So these men, all these guides, started climbing up the mountain, assisting each other, trying everything they could to scale this monstrous cliff. And none of them made it more than 3/4 of the way up the mountain. None of them. It was heartbreaking. People were sobbing, and this mother, standing in her backyard, hands on her hips, saw these men. She could even tell at that distance by their body language they had given up. And she ran to the base of the cliff and started climbing, wearing Crocs and wearing cut-off jeans and a tank top. No ropes, no safety equipment. And she just climbed up that mountain and started scaling, looking for finger holds where she had to. She jumped several inches up and would grab a hold with her fingertips and pull herself up. It wasn't long before her elbows were bloody, her knees were bloody, her feet were even bloody. Her fingertips were all bloody, her fingernails were demolished. And she kept going. The people couldn't believe the skill she seemed to display. And she made it all the way up there, and her baby was alive. The eagle was frightened away, and she grabbed her baby, held on to the baby, and took the blanket and tied it around herself and climbed down the mountain expertly. When she got to the bottom, 25 minutes later, everybody in the town was down there cheering. There wasn't a dry eye anywhere. And the mayor came out as kind of a spokesman for everybody. And he said, "Man, we have some of the best climbers in the United States, some of the best mountaineers, and they couldn't make it up that cliff to save that baby. You're in clogs, you're in shorts, you're in a shirt, no equipment, and you made it all the way up and rescued your baby. And he appears to be safe and sound. This is a miracle." And he said, "But we had all these experts that couldn't make it, yet you did." And she looked at him and smiled and said, "That's because it wasn't your baby." Maybe we need to try to understand each other's point of view a little bit better. And maybe we can all work to save each other's babies. That's all I have for tonight. Talk to you later.